The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was built to make visitors feel small. Its ceiling rose so high that clouds sometimes formed near the top. Its walls were made of black stone taken from a dead world, polished until they shone like dark mirrors. 12 massive chairs sat in a half circle at the center, each one carved to fit a different species. For 6,000 years, the elder races had gathered here to decide the fate of the galaxy. Today, they had gathered to discuss humanity. Ambassador stood alone in the center of the hall. She was a small woman with gray hair and calm eyes. She wore a simple black suit with no medals or decorations. Behind her, the seats for observers were empty. She had asked her staff to stay away. She already knew how this would end. Another rose from his chair. He was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and 4 arms that moved like snakes when he spoke. His people had always hated humans. They said it was because humans were young and reckless. The truth was simpler. Earth sat at the meeting point of 3 major hyperspace lanes. They wanted that position for themselves. Fellow and said, his voice smooth and pleasant. I bring grave news. Our investigators have found proof that humanity has been building weapons in the restricted zone. Secret weapons, weapons that could threaten us all. He waved one of his hands and images appeared in the air above the council floor. They showed human ships. They showed strange machines. They showed documents with official human seals. Watch the images without expression. She had seen them before. Her intelligence officers had warned her 3 days ago that they were planning something. They had traced the false evidence back to a facility on a moon called. Every document was fake. Every image was created by artists. The whole thing was a lie built on lies. But the council did not know this, or perhaps they did not want to know. This is a betrayal of everything the council stands for. And continued. Humanity was given a chance to join our great civilization. They were welcomed as friends, and this is how they repay us, with secret weapons, with plans for war. Raised her hand, the hall fell silent. And, she said, her voice was quiet but clear. These documents are false, these images are fake, my government requests time to investigate and prove this. And smiled, it was not a kind smile. Of course the humans deny it, he said. What else would they say? But the evidence is clear. The council must act now before it is too late. Looked at the other. She looked at the whose crops grew because of human farming techniques. She looked at the whose ships flew safely because of human navigators. She looked at the whose sick were healed by human doctors. She had helped all of them. Humanity had helped all of them. None of them would meet her eyes. Only old of the looked back at her. They were the oldest species in the council. They remembered things that others had forgotten. His face was covered in wrinkles and her eyes were like deep wells. She gave a small nod. It was an apology. It was also a warning. We will now vote, announced the High Speaker, a massive creature made of living crystal. The motion is to remove humanity's territorial rights beyond their home system. All colonies, stations, and holdings will be transferred to council administration. How do the vote? One by one they voted yes. All the others, 11 voices said yes. Only voted no. The motion passes, the High Speaker said. Humanity will withdraw from all territories beyond the Sol system within 1 standard year. Failure to comply will result in military action. The hall was silent. Everyone watched. They expected her to shout. They expected her to threaten. They expected her to beg. Humans were emotional creatures. Everyone knew this. They would make a scene, and then the council would offer a compromise, and everything would be settled in a way that made the council look merciful. Did none of these things. She looked at the council for a long moment. Her face showed nothing, not anger, not fear, not sadness, nothing at all. Then she bowed. It was a formal bow, the kind humans made when ending a relationship forever. She closed her datapad. She turned around, and she walked out of the great hall. She did not look back. And laughed. You see, he said to the others. They are weak. They know they cannot fight us. They will complain for a while and then they will accept their punishment. In a year they will come back begging for trade agreements. But Old did not laugh. She watched the door where it disappeared and she felt something cold in her ancient heart. In 6,000 years she had seen many species come before the council. She had seen them fight. She had seen them argue. She had seen them weep and rage and plead. She had never seen one simply walk away in silence. You are a fool, Anne, she said quietly. You have made a terrible mistake. And waved his 4 arms in dismissal. The old one speaks nonsense as always. What can the humans do? They are young, they are weak, they need us far more than we need them. Said nothing more, but she thought about the humans she had known. She thought about their history, which she had studied carefully. She thought about their wars and their famines and their plagues. She thought about how they had survived all of these things and still reached the stars. She thought about what happened to those who made enemies of survivors. Far away, Ambassador boarded her ship. Her staff surrounded her, asking questions, demanding answers. She raised one hand and they fell silent. "Send a message to Earth," she said. "Just 4 words." "What 4 words, Ambassador?" Looked out the window at the great station that held the council. She looked at it the way someone looks at a grave. "Begin protocol, quiet son." The message was sent. It reached Earth in seconds. Within an hour, it had spread to every human colony, every human ship, every human outpost in the galaxy. No one else noticed. No one else understood. They would learn. The first ships began moving within 12 hours. Captain of the freight service noticed it first. She was waiting at Station 7 for a human cargo ship that was supposed to deliver medical supplies. The ship never came. When she checked the tracking system, she saw something strange. The human ship was moving away from the station. It was heading toward Earth. She called the human shipping company. No one answered. She called the human trade office. No one answered. She called every human contact she had. No one answered. This was strange but not alarming. Perhaps there was a technical problem. Perhaps the humans were having a holiday, reported the delay to her superiors and went asleep. When she woke up, there were no human ships at the station at all. Across the galaxy, the same scene played out 1,000 times. Human freighters abandoned their routes. Human passenger ships turned around mid-journey and headed home. Human mining vessels left their asteroids. Human research stations went dark. On the planet Prime, Dr. Sarah was one of the best agricultural scientists in the galaxy. She had spent 20 years helping them grow food. Their soil was weak, their crops were failing, and their people were hungry. Sarah had created special treatments that made the soil rich again. She had developed new seeds that could grow in any condition. Because of her work, they had not known hunger for 50 years. On the morning after the council vote, Sarah packed her bags. Her assistant, a young male named, watched her with confusion. "Doctor, where are you going? The planting season starts next week. We need to prepare the new soil treatments." Sarah did not look at him. She continued packing. "Doctor, did I do something wrong?" Sarah stopped. For a moment, thought he saw tears in her eyes. But when she turned to face him, her expression was calm. "You did nothing wrong. You have been a wonderful assistant. I hope you will be very successful. But the crops, the treatments, you cannot leave now." Sarah walked to the door. She stopped and looked back at the laboratory she had built with her own hands. 20 years of work, 20 years of friendship, 20 years of helping people who were not her own. "Goodbye," she said. She walked out, never saw her again. Similar scenes happened everywhere. On the human navigators left their posts without explanation. These navigators had spent decades mapping the dangerous space around territory. They knew every gravitational anomaly, every hidden danger, every safe path through the chaos. Without them, ships would have to fly blind. The commander tried to stop them. He stood at the door of the navigation center with armed guards. "You cannot leave," he said. "We have contracts, we have agreements." The lead human navigator, an old man named Peters, looked at him calmly. "The contracts were made with the Galactic Council's approval. The Council has stated that humans have no rights beyond Earth. We are simply obeying the Council's decision." "That is not what the decision meant. Perhaps you should ask the Council to clarify." Peters and his team walked past the commander. The guards did not stop them. Something in the humans' eyes made them step aside. On 100 medical stations, human doctors finished their final surgeries and then packed their tools. On 1,000 research facilities, human scientists deleted their personal files and walked away. On 10,000 ships, human crew members said goodbye to their alien friends and boarded transports heading home. No one shouted, no one protested, no one made threats or demands. They simply left. And heard about the withdrawal 3 days later. He laughed when his assistant told him. "They are throwing a tantrum," he said. Like children who did not get their way, give them a week, they will calm down and come back. A week passed, the humans did not come back. A month passed, the first problems began to appear. On Prime, the new planting season was a disaster. Without Doctor's soil treatments, the crops grew weak and thin. Tried to recreate her formulas, but he did not have her knowledge or her skill. He watched helplessly as fields that had been green and rich turned brown and dead. In space, the first ship was lost. It was a cargo vessel carrying food to a colony world. The captain did not know about a gravitational anomaly that the human navigators had marked on their private charts. The ship flew too close. The gravity well pulled it in. 300 people died. 2 more ships were lost the following week. The galactic economy began to shake. Trade routes that had worked perfectly for decades suddenly became unreliable. Goods that had been cheap became expensive. Services that had been common became rare. And through it all, the humans said nothing. The Council sent messages to Earth. Official messages, polite messages, demanding messages, threatening messages. The messages were received, they were never answered. And stopped laughing. He began to pace his office at night, unable to sleep. This was not how it was supposed to happen. The humans were supposed to complain. They were supposed to negotiate. They were supposed to give him opportunities to look reasonable while still getting what he wanted. They were not supposed to simply disappear. Old sat in her quarters and watched the reports come in. Food shortages on Prime, lost ships in space, medical emergencies at a dozen stations, economic chaos across 3 sectors. She had tried to warn them. No one had listened. Humans do not forget, she said to herself, remembering an old conversation with a human historian. And humans do not forgive easily. They will smile and shake your hand and seem like your friend, but if you betray them, they will remember. They will wait. And when the time comes, they will make you pay. She poured herself a drink and watched the stars outside her window. What are you waiting for? She asked the distant point of light that was Earth. What do you want us to do? The stars did not answer. Neither did the humans. 6 months after the council vote, the galaxy began to understand what it had lost. The numbers told part of the story. 17 ships destroyed, 40% crop failure on Prime, 200 medical stations operating at half capacity, trade down by 30% across all sectors, prices rising every day, shortages everywhere. But numbers could not capture the full truth. The full truth was in the empty chairs at research facilities. It was in the silent communication channels that used to carry human voices. It was in the 1,000 small things that no one had noticed until they were gone. Old decided to try one more time. She did not tell the council. She did not ask for permission. She simply boarded her private ship and set course for Earth's solar system. It took 3 weeks to reach the outer boundary. When she arrived, she found a wall of defense satellites waiting for her. Her ship's computer translated the automated message. You are approaching restricted human space. State your identity and purpose. I wish to speak with the human government. I come in peace alone with no weapons. There was a long pause. Then, hold position, you will be contacted. Waited 1 day passed, then 2, then 3. She did not complain, she did not send more messages, she simply waited. On the 4th day, a human ship appeared. It was small and fast, painted the gray color of military vessels. It did not approach her ship, it simply watched. On the 5th day, a communication channel opened. The voice was female, flat, and emotionless. You may send one message of no more than 100 words. It will be delivered to the appropriate authorities. You will receive a response within 30 days. You may not enter human space. You may not approach any human vessel or station. Do you understand? I understand, said, her hearts ached. She had known humans for a century. She had called some of them friends. Now they spoke to her like she was a stranger, like she was an enemy. She chose her words carefully. I voted against the council's decision. I know the evidence was false. I am trying to find proof. Please do not punish the innocent for the crimes of the guilty. Many species depend on human help. They did not choose to hurt you. I ask for mercy. I ask for patience. I ask for one conversation. She sent the message. The human ship watched her for another hour, then disappeared into the darkness. Waited for 30 days. No response came. She returned to the council with a heavy heart. While she was gone, the situation had grown worse. The government had collapsed. Hungry people had filled the streets, demanding food that did not exist. A new government had taken power, but it was weak and scared. Many blamed the council for their suffering. Some said they should leave the council entirely. In space, the losses continued. 32 ships now, over 1,000 lives. The military had tried to map the dangerous areas themselves, but they did not have the skills or the knowledge. They flew into traps that the humans had long ago learned to avoid. And there was another problem, a darker problem. The hegemony had begun to move. There were old enemies of the council. They were a warrior species that believed in conquest and slavery. For centuries, they had been held back by the combined fleets of the council races. But the strongest ships in that combined fleet had always been human ships. The best tactics had always come from human admirals. Now those ships were gone. Those admirals were gone. They were not stupid. They saw the weakness. They smelled the fear. Their first attack came without warning. A small council colony on the border was destroyed in a single night. 10,000 people dead. They did not even try to hide their involvement. They wanted everyone to know. The council met in emergency session. "We must force the humans to return," shouted the representative. "This is their fault. They have a duty to protect us." "We took away their colonies and called them criminals," replied. "What duty do they have to us now?" "Then we must attack them, force them to help." "Attack Earth?" laughed bitterly. "With what? Our fleets are scattered, our economies are failing, our people are hungry and afraid, and you want to start a war with the one species that is still strong." The chamber fell silent, and sat in his chair, saying nothing. He had grown thin in the past months. His 4 arms hung limp at his sides. The other had started to look at him with suspicion. Questions were being asked. Investigators were digging into the evidence he had presented. The lies were starting to unravel. An intelligence officer had found something, a witness who had helped create the false documents. The witness was willing to talk. She had records, she had proof, and knew it was only a matter of time. He sent a message to his allies in the government. "We must destroy the evidence. We must silence the witness." But his allies had their own problems. The economy was collapsing. Their people were angry. Their government was barely holding on to power. No help came. Outside the Great Hall, the galaxy continued to burn. Pirates grew bold on the trade routes. They attacked 2 more colonies. Food prices doubled, then tripled. Refugees fled from border worlds, looking for safety that did not exist. And on Earth, the humans said nothing. They watched, they waited, they let the fire spread. Some thought they were being cruel, some thought they were being weak, some thought they had simply given up. Knew better, she had studied human history. She knew about their long wars and their longer memories. She knew that humans did not destroy their enemies with weapons alone. They destroyed them with patience. They let their enemies make mistake after mistake, growing weaker and weaker, until the final blow was almost an act of mercy. "When will you speak?" she asked the stars each night. "When will you tell us what you want?" The stars remained silent. But somewhere in that silence heard an answer. It was not words, it was something older and colder. It was the sound of patience waiting to become justice. 2 years after the withdrawal, the truth finally came to light. The witness was a scientist named Kella. She had helped create the false evidence against humanity. She had built the fake documents. She had designed the false images. She had done it because it had promised her wealth and power. Now she was alone and afraid, hiding in a small room on a station far from home. The intelligence officer who found her was patient and kind. He promised her protection. He promised her a new identity. He promised her a chance to make things right. Kella gave him everything: documents, recordings, communication logs, proof that showed exactly how the lie had been built, who had built it, and why. The officer brought the evidence brought it to the council. The session that followed would be remembered for 1,000 years. The Great Hall was full. Every species had sent representatives. The observer seats were packed. Recording devices floated in the air, sending images to every corner of the galaxy. Everyone wanted to see what would happen. Stood in the center of the floor. She was old and tired, but her voice was strong. "Fellow, 2 years ago, this body voted to punish humanity for crimes they did not commit. Today, I bring proof that those crimes never happened. The evidence was created by an Ovda with the help of members of his government. Every document was false. Every image was fake. We condemned an innocent species based on lies. She raised her hand and the proof appeared in the air. Documents showing orders, recordings of his conversations, financial records showing payments to the people who built the false evidence. The scientist Kella's testimony, clear and detailed. The hall exploded in chaos. Species shouted at each other. Old arguments became new fights. The delegation screamed at the demanded blood. Even species that had supported the original vote now turned on him with fury. And himself sat frozen in his chair. His pale blue skin had gone white, his forearms shook. He had known this day might come, but he had never truly believed it. He had thought he was too clever, too powerful, too important. He was wrong. Guards came for him. His own people, the guards who were supposed to protect him, stepped aside and let them through. No one helped him. No one spoke for him. He was dragged from his seat like a criminal because that is what he was. But the damage went far beyond one corrupt. In the days that followed, the government fell. The people had learned the truth and they were ashamed. Their leaders had brought disgrace on their entire species. Riots filled the streets. Old politicians fled. A new government took power, promising reform and justice. Other species began to ask harder questions. If the council could be fooled so easily, what else had they gotten wrong? If one could manipulate them all, how many others had done the same? The foundation of trust that had held the council together for 6,000 years began to crack. They announced they were leaving the council. Their speaker made a short statement. We trusted the council to be fair and wise. They were neither. Our people starved because of a lie. We will find our own path now. The followed, then 3 other species. Within a month, half the council had either left or announced plans to leave. Watched it all with sad eyes. She had served the council for 200 years. She had believed in it. She had fought for it. Now she watched it die. She made one last journey to human space. This time the wait was shorter. After only 3 days, a human ship approached. It was larger than the one before, an official vessel. A door opened, and a figure in a gray uniform floated across to her ship. He was a young man with dark skin and serious eyes. He did not smile. He did not offer greetings. He simply stood before her and waited. I am of the, she said. I come to speak with your government, to apologize, to ask what we can do to make things right. The young man looked at her for a long moment. And has been exposed, he said. It was not a question. Yes, he is in custody. He will be punished. The council is falling apart. Yes, many species have already left. Good. The word hit like a blow, but she did not argue. She had no right to argue. What must we do? She asked. What do the humans want? The young man reached into his uniform and pulled out a small device. He placed it on the table between them. The council must dissolve. Completely, publicly, every species must see that the old order is finished. Every person must understand that what was done to humanity was wrong and that it will never happen again. And if we do this, will humanity return? The young man was silent for a long moment. Perhaps, he said finally, perhaps we will listen. Perhaps we will talk, but nothing will be as it was before. Humanity will never again trust others to decide our fate. We will never again put ourselves in a position where one lie can destroy everything we built. He turned to leave. Wait, said, please, I need to understand. Why did you do it this way? Why the silence? Why not fight? Why not argue? Why not show the evidence of Anne's lies yourselves? The young man stopped at the door. He looked back at her with those serious eyes. Because we wanted you to see it yourselves. We wanted you to find the truth without our help. We wanted you to understand that when you hurt us, you hurt yourselves more. We wanted the lesson to be one you could never forget. He paused. Humans are patient. We learned patience on a hard world that tried to kill us every day. We learned that sometimes the best way to win is to simply step back and let your enemies destroy themselves. He left, the door closed behind him. Sat alone in her ship, staring at the small device he had left behind. It contained the formal human demands, the terms for ending the silence. She picked it up with trembling hands. The council would die, but perhaps from its ashes something better could grow. She set course for home. The great hall had never felt so empty. Once 12 massive chairs had filled the center of the chamber. Now only 7 remained. The others had been removed, taken away by the species that had left the council. Their places were marked by dark spots on the stone floor, like scars that would never heal. Stood at the speaking platform. Around her sat the remaining. Some looked angry, some looked sad, some looked relieved, all of them looked tired. In the corner of the hall, surrounded by guards, stood An. The chains on his forearms were made of simple metal. His fine robes had been replaced by prison clothes. He had lost weight. His eyes were hollow and dead. He had been brought here to watch. The humans had insisted on it. They wanted him to see what his lies had created. They wanted him to witness the destruction of everything he had tried to use for his own benefit. Cleared her throat, the hall fell silent. For 6,000 years, this council has governed the galaxy. We have made decisions that affected billions of lives. We have settled wars. We have built alliances. We have created a civilization that spans the stars. She paused, her voice was heavy with grief. But we have also made terrible mistakes. 2 years ago, we allowed ourselves to be fooled by false evidence. We punished an innocent species for crimes they did not commit. We took their colonies. We called them criminals. We did this without proper investigation, without giving them a chance to defend themselves, without the basic fairness that should be the foundation of any just government. She looked at the remaining. None of them could meet her eyes. The humans responded to our injustice with silence. They from our space. They refused to argue or fight or beg. They simply left us to face the consequences of our own actions, and those consequences have been terrible. Pressed a button and images appeared in the air. Fields of dead crops on Prime, wreckage of ships floating in space, medical stations with empty beds and crying patients, charts showing the collapse of the galactic economy. Famine, death, chaos, all because we were too proud to question a lie, all because we were too eager to believe the worst about a species that had done nothing but help us. She took a deep breath. The humans have given us their terms for ending the silence. They are simple but absolute. The council must dissolve, not reform, not reorganize, dissolve. Completely and permanently, every species must acknowledge what was done to humanity. Every species must accept responsibility for their part in this tragedy. Only then will the humans consider speaking to us again. A murmur went through the hall. Some looked relieved, others looked frightened. What would happen to the galaxy without the council? Who would settle disputes? Who would maintain order? But these questions had already been answered. The council had proven that it could not be trusted. Its authority was already gone. Its power was already broken. This vote was simply the final acknowledgement of a death that had happened long ago. "We will now vote," said, "all in favor of dissolution." 7 hands rose, 7 voices said yes. There was no dissent, there was nothing left to save. The motion passes. The Galactic Council is hereby dissolved, effective immediately. May the stars have mercy on us all. The words echoed through the empty hall. Somewhere, recording devices sent them to every corner of the galaxy. Billions of beings heard the announcement. The old order was finished. In his corner and began to laugh. It was a broken sound like glass shattering. "You fools," he said. "You weak, pathetic fools, the humans have won. They have destroyed everything and you helped them do it." Looked at him with pity. "No, and you destroyed everything. The humans simply refused to save us from your destruction. There is a difference." Guards took him away. His laughter echoed through the halls long after he was gone. The next morning, something appeared at the edge of what used to be council space. Human ships, hundreds of them. They did not advance. They did not attack. They simply sat there, lights blinking in the darkness, waiting. Was the first to respond. She traveled to the boundary line in her small ship, alone and unarmed. A human vessel came to meet her. The door opened and a familiar figure emerged. Ambassador had grown older in the past 2 years. Her gray hair was now white. Her face had new lines, but her eyes were the same, calm and patient and impossible to read. Ambassador said, "You came." "You dissolved the council," replied. "You kept your promise." "It was the right thing to do. It should have been done long ago." Nodded slowly. For the first time, something that might have been approval flickered in her eyes. "We have been watching," she said. "We have seen everything, the famines, the deaths, the suffering. We did not enjoy it, but it was necessary." "Necessary for what?" "Necessary for you to understand. Necessary for the galaxy to learn a lesson it will never forget. Necessary to ensure that what happened to us will never happen to anyone else." felt tears forming in her ancient eyes. "Will you come back? Will you help us rebuild?" Was silent for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was soft. "We will talk, we will listen, we will consider, but nothing will be as it was before. There will be no more council. There will be no more voting on our fate. We will be partners, or we will be nothing at all." She turned and looked at the human ships waiting behind her. Then she looked back at. Humans have a saying, those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. We hope the galaxy has learned. We hope we never have to teach this lesson again. She extended her hand. It was a human gesture, an offer of peace, a beginning. Took it. In the years that followed, a new order slowly emerged from the ashes of the old. They called it the Second Compact. It was not perfect. Nothing ever is. But it was built on a foundation of respect and honesty that the old council had never known. And at the center of it all stood humanity, not as rulers, not as conquerors, but as partners, as teachers, as the species that had shown the galaxy the terrible cost of injustice and the hard path back to trust. Historians would later write that the silence was humanity's greatest weapon. They would say that by refusing to speak, the humans had spoken louder than any words could. But Old, who lived long enough to see the new era dawn, knew the truth. The silence had not been a weapon, it had been a mirror. The humans had simply stepped back and let the galaxy see itself clearly for the first time. What the galaxy saw was ugly, what it built afterward was beautiful. And that perhaps was the most human thing of all.